You can't fall asleep without it. Not music. Not white noise. Not a podcast playing in the background. A story. Your story. One you've been quietly building for months, maybe years, adding new scenes, new characters, new dialogue every single night. You pick up exactly where you left off, like hitting play on a show that exists nowhere else in the world except inside your own mind. If this already feels familiar, subscribe, like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear this, because we are just getting started. You know every character like old friends. You've rehearsed certain conversations so many times you could perform them in your sleep. Some nights you rewind a single scene over and over because the emotion wasn't landing right and you need it to feel real before you can finally rest. And then morning comes and you have to go back. You sit in meetings. You answer emails. You nod at the right moments and laugh at the right jokes. From the outside you look completely present. But you checked out 10 minutes ago. Inside, you're somewhere else entirely, finishing a conversation with someone who isn't in the room, living a scene so detailed and so vivid that when someone says your name it takes a full second to locate yourself back in reality. You've been living this way for years. Two lives running simultaneously. One that everyone else can see and one that only you know exists. And lately you've started wondering which one actually feels more like yours. Here's the truth nobody tells you. And it changes everything. When your brain isn't actively focused on a task, it doesn't power down. It does the exact opposite. It switches on a system that neuroscientists call the default mode network, a deeply wired neural structure responsible for imagination, memory, self-reflection, and mentally simulating futures that haven't happened yet. When you zone out in the shower, when you drift during a long drive, when you disappear mid-conversation, that isn't your brain malfunctioning. That is a specific, ancient, incredibly sophisticated system doing precisely what evolution built it to do. In 2002, a psychologist named Eli Summer began noticing something remarkable in his clinical patients. Certain people weren't just daydreaming the way everyone does. They were spending 3, 4, sometimes 6 or more hours every single day living inside rich, complex, emotionally detailed worlds inside their heads. He gave it a name. Maladaptive daydreaming. And when researchers started looking closer, they discovered it wasn't rare at all. It was everywhere. It had just never been named, never been spoken about, never been given a place in the conversation. But here is where almost every explanation of this goes wrong. They hand you the clinical label and walk away, leaving you feeling like something in you is broken. So let's go deeper, because you deserve the real answer. Your brain is not glitching. It is simulating. It is running emotional scenarios, rehearsing outcomes, processing experiences, testing versions of reality, all in a space where nothing can go wrong and nothing can hurt you. It discovered, probably when you were very young, that this was the most efficient and safest way to handle the things that were too big or too painful to process out loud. So why does it keep choosing the invented world over the real one? Because inside that world, you have something you almost never get out here. Total control. Complete, uninterrupted control. Out here people talk over you. They misread your intentions. They go cold at the exact moment you needed warmth. But in there, in the world your mind built, you always find the right words. Your voice is steady. The people you love actually listen. The apology you deserved and never received finally comes. The version of yourself you've always wanted to be shows up without hesitation. It looks like escapism from the outside. Sometimes it genuinely is. But most of the time it's something far more important. It's emotional maintenance. Your psyche doing the repair work that real life doesn't give it space to do. You're not avoiding your life. You're rehearsing courage. You're processing old grief. You're letting yourself feel fully heard in the only place that's ever consistently offered that. And quietly underneath all of that, something even more tender is happening. You are keeping yourself company. In a way, if you're being completely honest, that no one else has ever quite managed to do. But there is a line. Most people who live this way can feel it even if no one ever pointed it out to them. Healthy daydreaming moves fluidly. It drifts in, does its work, and when the real world calls you back, you return without friction. But for some people, returning becomes the hard part. The scenarios bleed from minutes into hours. You tell yourself you'll stop, but stopping means leaving somewhere that feels better than here. Real life begins to feel flat. Colorless. Like a copy of something that used to be vivid. That's when it starts taking things from you. The project that never got started because imagining finishing it felt satisfying enough. The relationship that slowly hollowed out because you were only ever half present. The hours, real and irretrievable hours, that dissolved into a world that doesn't exist. And when you finally surface, the first thing you feel isn't peace. It's shame. That crushing, ugly, why can't I just be normal shame? And because shame is its own unbearable weight, you already know what happens next. You go right back in. Because at least in there you don't have to feel this. That cycle is where it gets genuinely heavy. But here is what most people never hear. It didn't start with the daydreaming. It started long before, in a room you may not have thought about in years. Maybe the house was loud, tension crackling through walls, and you'd lie there small and still pretending to be asleep. Or maybe it was the opposite. Suffocatingly quiet. The kind of silence that means someone is furious but no one will say it. Either way, you were alone with it. And nobody came. So you did something extraordinary. You built a door. You closed your eyes, and on the other side was a world where things made sense, where someone showed up, where you were safe. And it worked. It actually worked. So your brain did what brains do with things that work. It kept it. Labeled it. Filed it under reach for this when reality becomes too much. That was not weakness. That was survival. That was a child doing the most creative, most resourceful thing imaginable with the situation they were handed. But you're not in that room anymore. The walls are different now. You are different now. And slowly, gently, your nervous system needs to learn that the real world is safe enough to stay in. You don't need to burn down the world you built. You just need to find the door back more often. When you feel yourself beginning to drift, try something small and physical. Press your hands flat against the nearest surface and actually feel it. Find one sound in the room and follow it for a moment. Take a single breath and stay with it completely. You're not forcing anything shut. You're just sending your nervous system a quiet message. It's okay out here now. You don't have to leave to be safe. You built an entire universe inside your mind. Not because you were broken, not because something went wrong, but because something in you absolutely refused to stop looking for somewhere safe. That is not a flaw. That is one of the most deeply human things a person can do. The only shift left is learning that you are allowed to be in both places. The world you created and the one standing outside, patient and real, waiting for you to come back to it fully. If this reached something in you that you've never quite been able to put into words, share it with someone who needs to hear it, like this video so more people find it, and subscribe for more videos that go this deep into the parts of the human mind most people never talk about. You found this for a reason. Stay a while.